Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley from Inklipse and welcome to another video. Now today I am so incredibly excited for today's video. You guys probably saw my launch video with Reinkers where we did it right at Creativation, announced that I've been working with them, which is so exciting, and then we kind of unveiled my whole product line. But it wasn't available until today, so I'm super excited to announce that at the time you're watching this video, all the products are available online now. I'll have links down below in the description to a couple of different stores you can purchase them from, and then all of the supplies, including the 12 new ink colors and the first release of the kind of design products like stamps, stencils, and then of course my cardstock as well. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm super excited to see what you guys create with it. But today we're really going to dive in and focus really solely on the ink pads and share tons of different things you could do with them, what makes them kind of special, and why I made them the way that I did to tailor them kind of towards card makers and makers that do exactly what I do, where you kind of throw some ink down, add some water, do some really cool techniques, but then also making sure that they stamp really nicely as well. Now, one thing that was really important to me, which is super exciting, is that they're made right here in the United States, in New Jersey, at Reinkers headquarters. So it's really awesome because you know that they're going to be quality, and also we're really easily able to tailor the formulation. I'm able to let them know what I want, and we really hit the nail right on the head with this one, with kind of what the inks need to do. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual ink pad. I'm so excited about this. So here is what the outside of my ink casing looks like. I chose the black case because I wanted kind of that bold contrast of color there, so it's really easy to see that bright pop of color on there. And then a black bottom of the label with that really bold colored top, which I just love. So this is Remember Me. It's got two tones on that, and I'll explain it in just a little bit, but that was pretty important to us when we were creating this as well. And then when you go into the ink pad here, it is in fact a felt-based ink pad. So it's a nice firm surface, so no matter how hard of a heavy-handed stamper you are, this is going to apply the ink really nicely. It's not going to sink into your stamp and kind of ruin the image. So I really like that we did the felt, and I also find that it holds up over time a little bit better. It holds the ink in there really nicely, and the surface holds up better over time over the years. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's jump right into doing some awesome techniques with these inks. So one of my favorite things to do is ink blending, and I've been doing this ever since I was super little, and so I really wanted to make sure my inks did a good job at the ink blending. So I'm going to go into beasting here with one of the mini ink blending tools. This is my stark white cardstock, and I find that this takes the ink really nicely too. So if you are having a hard time getting a good blend or getting your nice bold colors, this does take the ink really nice, and sometimes it's about switching up your cardstock too to make sure that's quality. So I like to start off the edge and then go right onto the project. But even if you start right onto the project, I just tap off a couple times and you can go right into the actual project as well. And it's going to give you a nice blend. Now sometimes you'll find that you get little marks on the edges with this, but you can either kind of smooth it out and go over top of that, and I find it covers it up pretty nicely. Or you can go in with other colors and that'll smooth that out as well. So I'm just going to go into the edge, and I like to add the colors at least 3 places on the card, because your eyes like little groups of 3, so to have 3 places with the same color really brings it all together. Now we're going to go in with Slippery When Wet, and I just love this color. It's a really bright, bold, kind of mustard yellow color, which I absolutely love. Now it was important for me too to have these be that translucent dye ink. I love the translucent dyes because when they mix together, they create a beautiful new color on your project. So here you can see in between Slippery When Wet and Beasting, I'm getting a nice kind of orange color, which I just love. And by doing this, you're filling in some colors and getting new colors that aren't in the palette, which I love the versatility of that when you're blending backgrounds, to be able to get those new colors in between with the inks. And you can see as I blend over top too, it really smooths out that color and gives you a nice soft blend in between the colors. So if you do have any of those harsh marks, I find they go away pretty easily when you put the next ink color over top. Now I'm going to go in with some Clear Skies ink as well, and I just love this color. So what this is going to do is it's going to go with that red, and that's going to make a nice purple color there. So we'll just go in and create that blend between those two. And then when I go over top of that yellow color, it's going to create that nice green. And by lifting up a little bit of pressure too, you can kind of go with a little bit of a lighter hand and then kind of fade out those edges. So it's really easy to not get those harsh edges with these inks. I find that with some other ones, it's a little bit more difficult to do that with. And then right in here, I like to go in and fill it in with a little bit of Triple Berry. This is a really bright purple color, which I just love. It's kind of a fuchsia. I'm going to just add that right into the center there. And if you find that one color is overpowering or overlapping another one, you can always go in with your ink blender again and go right back in to add a little bit more blue over the top. Now to clean up my surface, I'm just working on a non-porous surface here, and I'm just going to spray a little water and wipe off my desk, and it's just as easy as that to clean off my water-based dye inks. So I really love the easy blended backgrounds you can create. It is so simple to blend between the colors to create new colors and really get that smooth, vibrant blend with all my colors. Now to finish this background off, I'm going to go in with my splintered background stamp here, and I'm just going to spray this with a little bit of water. So I'll go from pretty high distance up, and I'll just give it a nice mist over top of that whole stamp. And then once I'm done with that, I'll take my inked background and press it into that ink. You can go either way with this since it's a 6x6 background. I'm just going to go in and I'll press that stamp right onto the card there. And I'm just applying a little bit of pressure all over the place. You don't need to push down too hard because that'll kind of distort the lines. But once you have that, it lifts off that ink really beautifully and creates a really wonderful shadowed background and creates almost a lighter version of that color. And as this dries, it's going to intensify a little bit and create a really cool pattern on your card. Now I showed you how to lift color off the background, but what if you want a more bleached kind of look and effect? We're going to go in with the Stargazer stencil here, and I'm just going to place this right over top of my background. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to spray some water on. So this is going to take the color up a little bit more intensely. So I'm going to go in here with my spray and just apply a nice layer of mist over top of this whole background. And then when I pull this off, it really creates even a more saturated and vibrant lift of color on there. Now here's another background where I went in with the backsplash in the Remember Me color, and I sprayed that with water to get kind of that same bleached effect. And that's why on the package here, you'll see on the package we have two different tones. That lighter color is what it's going to look like when it kind of bleaches out with that water, and that darker color is what it's going to get when it's stamped or blended regularly. So we really wanted to show that feature of the water reactiveness and how you almost get two tones from that. Now another thing that I love to do with my inks is ink smooshing. This is so much fun to kind of put the inks on the surface and almost do like a mono print of the colors. So I'm going to go down with, again, a little bit of Bee Sting. Then I'll apply a little bit of Slippery When Wet. I just love these three colors, and I'll add a little bit more color in a little bit. But then Clear Skies, and these three create really beautiful blends, and they usually don't make mud because they're those primary colors. So then I'm going to go in here and spray this down with a little bit of water, and I'll go into my Stark White cardstock. Now this takes the water nicely, but if you do want to apply tons of water, a watercolor cardstock is going to be a little bit better for some more movement and playtime with the ink. So I'm just going to go in here and apply some of that down. You can see I splashed on that layer of color just by dipping the inks into there. Now once you've dipped in that color, I'm going to heat set this to dry that layer because you really want to work in layers with this ink so you can get different kind of looks and effects. If you just leave this wet layer on and dip it back in, it's all going to blend together. So now that this is dry, I'm going to go back in and I'm just going to dip into little areas that we have of this color. And you might just want to leave it just how it was, but I like going back in and getting these little spots on here. And I think that creates a really beautiful background once you're done doing that. So then I can go back in after this second layer and again heat set this. Another fun thing to do is go in with a stencil and lift some of that color off the surface to transfer it to your background. So this is the Backsplash stencil, and all I need to do is just pick up some of that color with my stencil. And then I'm going to take that color and I'll just apply it in areas onto the background. So you can see that some of that color then transfers onto the background. So I'm just going to apply that there. Now I find it works really nicely with darker colors, so this red is going to do really great when you're applying that color onto there. So you can get those line backgrounds. So I like to go back in with Remember Me. This is kind of that darker blue color, just to add a little bit for the shock factor. I love this kind of darker blue, just a little bit added in there. So I'll spray it. The more you spray it, the more diluted it gets. So you just want to be careful not to spray it too much. And then I'm going to throw in a little bit of dark blue onto this background too, which I love the look of that. So once you've done your ink smooshing, this is how it looks. You can totally stop at any layer and just leave it there, but I love all of these little watercolor splotches in there and all the different layers that create this really beautiful, almost mixed media kind of watercolor background. Now you could of course go back in with a stencil here, and if I just want to lay down my stencil, I can go back in with water, and these inks are always going to be water reactive. So if I go in there and spray that, you can see that design kind of come through on the surface there, and if I dry it, it'll almost intensify that color. So look, I love that stencil design in the background there. With a little bit of water, you can totally lift off the color. They're always going to be reactive with water, which is really awesome. So you can keep going back in if you want to rework your background to create some new textures and designs with it. Now, another thing that I really love to do with one of my colors, this one is called Gur. It was named after my dog. It's a nice dark kind of chocolate brown color. And this is really fun to go around the edges and do a little bit of ink blending to kind of make it look a little more finished. So I'm going to tap off any excess color there, and then I'm just going to kind of angle my blending tool right on the edge just so it hits the edge of that surface. And you can go around and it just creates a more finished edge and kind of ties everything all together. Now you totally don't have to do this, but I just love to do this with some of the backgrounds if you want to, say, make it look a little bit more masculine, or like I said, kind of give it a finished edge to it. Now I'm going to stop with this background before I ruin it. I'm going to call it quits here. All I need to do now is just put this on a card with a sentiment or a little critter stamp, and there you go, you have a really awesome completed background. One of the things that I really love about my ink is it almost kind of doubles as a watercolor, which I absolutely love. So you can take these with a little bit of a water brush and then you're able to easily watercolor. So I'm going to go in with my Dudes 2 stamp set. You pick a little head and a little body to create with, and then you can stamp these down onto your surface. So I'm going to use a jet black archival ink. This works really nice with my inks because it's that waterproof ink, so it's not going to bleed when you color with my inks. So I'm going to go in here. Now I've switched over to Reinkers watercolor cardstock, and I'm just going to stamp this. This little guy's meant to kind of hang off the edge of the card. So I'm just going to stamp that down. Then I'll ink the little head up, and I'm going to line it right up. You can kind of look at the side of the stamp, and then I'm going to apply nice good pressure to stamp that down. And then to create your palette of color, all you need to do is take the ink pad and just apply some color to a non-porous surface. Here I'm just having to work on my desk, but you can definitely bring out the craft sheet and apply ink directly to there. So I'm using Bee Sting, Gur. I'll apply a little bit of Over the Moon. I'm going to show you how my colors blend together as well. And then I'll use some Remember Me. So I'm just using the detail water brush. I'm going to go in here, so if I'm coloring the hair in, all I need to do is go in and just apply this watercolor all over the surface. Now the more water you add to this, it dilutes the ink a little bit more. So when you're using a water brush, it kind of just applies that water for you. But I just find that it's easy to go into areas that haven't been touched with that water before to get a little bit of a darker color. So if I want to go in and shade this, I'm just going to apply some color and drop it in there. Then to get a skin tone, I'm going to take a little bit of that Over the Moon color with a little bit of Gur, and I'm just going to mix those two colors together. And then you can get a really cool skin tone. So it's really easy to mix these since they're that translucent dye. You can really easily mix the color together to create a completely new color. So if I want to color this skin tone, it's super easy to do that. So once I'm done with that, you can see just how easy it is to color this in. So if you apply the color once it's dry with a new layer, you get kind of those wicking effects, which I think looks super cool. But if you apply the color while it's still wet and add new color into there, you can really easily blend the colors together, which I just love. So look at that little dude too. You could definitely add a little sentiment, maybe create a little inky background behind it, and really create an awesome card with this little guy. I love how easy it is to bring this into coloring as well. Now I also wanted to share that my inks are Copic marker or alcohol marker friendly. So this means that when I go in and stamp the color down, I'm going to go in with Gur here and one of my Trampoline Friends stamps. I'm just going to stamp this down onto my cardstock. And then another thing that's pretty important too to some people is that when you just spray a rag with water, it's really easily wiped off and you can go right to the next color, and I find there's little to no staining with my inks. It's really super easy to clean your stamps, so if that's super important to you, these inks are really great for that since they clean off just with water. Then I'm also going to go in with Over the Moon. This is a bright yellow color, and I love how this one looks with Copics, so I just wanted to share that with you again today as well. So I'm going to go in here with Copic marker then, and I'm just going to go over the surface of my inks to kind of show you that they're not going to bleed. And then I'll go over top of that yellow color as well. And there we go. And I didn't even heat set these either. They really do a great job at withstanding that. It doesn't bleed at all over top of those lines. And that yellow almost creates a resist with some colors too. So if I go in with a dark Copic marker on top of that yellow, it really creates a cool resist. So here is both of those when the marker is dry. This was from a couple days ago. You can see that yellow shine through, which I just love, and these don't bleed at all, which is really awesome. I love that my inks work with Copics because that's a really great coloring option for lots of these fun critter images as well. Now, of course, I also wanted to make sure my inks stamped really nicely too. So no matter how many techniques they can do, I really wanted to make sure these stamp because then it'll be a great all-around ink you can keep on your desk for techniques, but also some really great colored stamping. So I'm going to go in here with Traffic Cone, and I'm going in on one of my kind of more bold stamped images. This is a sentiment that says, hey. This is from my Dudes 2 stamp set. So all I need to do is ink that up, and then I'm going to take it to my paper and stamp it right down onto the surface. And look at that really beautiful, bold colored image you get. I just absolutely love how these stamp on the surface, and they do such a nice job of stamping. That was super important to me, and the chemists really hit the nail on the head with these when you were creating stamped images. They really do such a great job at creating those nice, bold, and colored stamped images. Alright, so I hope you guys really enjoyed joining me to see kind of an overview of some of the awesome things that my inks can do. It was really important for me to be able to do all those techniques with these inks so that it's kind of a go-to ink for you guys to reach for. And I know for me it definitely is, since they were kind of formulated for everything that I love to do. And I also love the colors that we chose too. They're those really vibrant colors, but they've got a little bit of a muted undertone too, so they're pretty unique, and I love creating with colors like that. And if you guys decided that you definitely want these inks, or any of the other products from my first release that you might have seen, there will be product links down below in the description to several different sources where they're available, so you guys can go shopping down there, and I'm so excited to see what you guys create with my products. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another video like this one. And also leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what your favorite technique is that you saw with these inks. Alright, I'll see you guys very soon for another card making and crafting video. Have a great day. Bye!